So Verg, I guess we've just spoken about the core range and how much of a big undertaking and a big project that was.
Yep.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the limiteds? Because I would say in the last 12 to 18 months, even though we've had that original sticker of the band of colour, we've gone to these full can wraps, and some of them are a little bit out there compared to what the original brand identity was, I guess.
Yeah.
So keen to get your thoughts on how that intertwines with the rest of the brand.
Yeah, the limiteds are a different beast. I mean, obviously with core range beers, you've got to really honour the brand of Revel and make sure that that consistency is there. But with limiteds, it's all about the beer. It's all about sort of giving a personality behind the beer. Like, Maddie puts a lot of passion into creating these beautiful beers that, can often have unique flavors. And so it's an opportunity to steer away from the core brand and focus more on that beer and give personality behind it. So for example, like when you're doing a sour series, they're a bit more fun sours, and often, there's lots of flavor put into them. You're experimenting with, we've done strawberries and cream, we've got lemonade, Pav. Does anyone know about that one yet? Have I just...
Pavlova, that one is being canned tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Coming back.
Coming back.
Yep,
Fantastic. So did I just break that
Yeah, I
to
think
people?
it's pretty
Okay.
fresh.
I think by the time this goes out, it would have been
Okay,
released.
so that's cool.
Yeah.
So, when you're looking at that can, I mean, inside that can, you're trying to capture those flavors. So you want to, you want your artwork to reflect that as such. And there's been heaps of beers, really. We've done, I don't know how many, but
we did 31 unique beers last financial year.
yeah.
as
And so
an
each
example.
one of them has had a unique, different design, and I love them because it forces me to get a bit creative and outside of my comfort zone with just the corporate identity sort of work, and focus on being more of an artist and creating whether it's hand-drawn illustrations or vectored illustrations. Vectored just means digitally created artwork, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
A bit more fun than the origins
Then
of the
18
sticker.
months to create a gradient.
Yeah, 18 months for a gradient. Or, I mean, there's only, in the original cans, there's only a limited bandwidth in what you can actually do.
Yeah.
And I think the color schemes that we went with, and we were starting to do patterns and colors.
We ran out of colours.
We were running out of colors, and we had situations where people saying, well, this looks like that. And, I think...
People weren't reading labels,
there's words on it too. that
One's a
you've got to-
Strawberry Wishes, one's an IPA.
there's
Should I not
some-
open
I
up
thought,
that
of,
can
I
of
thought
worms?
of that when we were talking about going to that pink on.
Yeah,
what if we had
yeah.
to- no.
I mean, we had fun within the constraints of a very narrow band, didn't we, Maddie? And
Certainly.
that was fun. And I think just to go into that just slightly so everyone has common understanding, the reason why craft brewers have, when they go to can, it's a financial thing. The limited amount of quantity to produce a can is 60,000 at the time where we started this off in 2018. So 60,000 of these cans, and we released 31 unique beers last year. You couldn't do that amount of times because we're just not a brewery of that volume. So if you create a generic can that has a little sticker, you can change the sticker easily enough when you've got a good designer that can, be creative in that constraint. So that's the reason why we did that. And now our company has matured a little bit more, and we're growing up. We're in our adolescence, I guess, and we can hand pick the core beers and say we're gonna go all in on a dedicated design because we're doing the volume for that, and we move those beers. So it's a much more cost-effective way to do it in that regard. But that's why the unique beers are still. We now have opened that sticker up to a full wrap, and it gives Verg and Maddie and the team much more creative opportunity, I guess.
A big part of that as well is having our own canning line come online. We were using mobile canners, so to have a white or a black generic can and be swapping between these cans and those cans was a bit of a nightmare. So at the start of this year, when we commissioned our own canning line, we've got a lot more flexibility as to what we can do with the different cans, and then of course different designs.
Yeah.
So I don't know, we've probably done half on black cans and half on white, maybe.
Yeah,
roughly.
I do like the black ones.
Yeah.
With the black lids, they've got that sort of
sexy,
stealthy sort of.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you picked out the Neo Mexicanos. That was one in particular that you wanted to talk about that we got out of the beer library.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we're talking about Maddie puts, a lot of passion into creating these beautifully tasting beers. And I remember reading the tasting notes for this one. And basically this whole design was trying to reflect those tasting notes where you're talking about the various hops. I think there's 3 hops that are used in this one. And there were words in the tasting notes that made me think, okay, so where is it? Neo Mexicanos hops are described as wild and rebellious and are native to the mountains of the New Mexico, providing unique flavors in the beer, including tropical fruit, coconut, tobacco, and purple.
Yeah.
And it was that one word, purple, that made me think of synesthesia. Synesthesia? That's
with
it?
convictions, Verg.
Synergy or anesthesia?
No. Synesthesia.
For the unindoctrinated, could you explain what synesthesia means, please?
So
Because I did have to Google it.
is when people that will taste something or hear music, they see colours, right? And so to mention that there was purple in this made me think of synesthesia. Oh God, I hate saying that word sometimes. Anyway, and so that's what made me think about trying to capture what synesthesia looks like.
Scholars maintain the word was developed in the 70s where a lot of people are on acid in the poppy fields.
And so I created this kind of like color orb. And there's 3 different types of green that represents those hops that you mentioned in the tasting notes. And then that little bit of purple. And I think there's coconut there, a little bit of white as well. So that's what made me...
Very interesting. That the purple comes from the hop Zappa, which is one of the Neo Mexicanos hops. So when they go through the development process of the new hops, sometimes it can take up to 15, 20 years. But this one being Neo Mexicanos was sort of found wildly growing.
Yeah.
And went through a lot different sort of development process than they normally would in the lab.
Yeah.
But it gets to a point basically where they start growing the hop, and then after that they'll trial it in beers. So they sit there, brewers, hop growers, or whoever it is, they sit there and rub the hops, sort of sniff your hands, which you do when you do hop selection and stuff like that. And basically you say whatever comes to your mind. So you might be like, all right, that's mandarin, that's grape, that's whatever.
Yeah.
And then someone's gone, purple. And just pinged purple. So that's where that comes from. That's actually the description if you buy Zappa hops.
Well, he has synesthesia.
Yeah, so that's come out of America. So it's quite interesting. But the purple as a flavour, if you can sort of picture those purple sort of lollies.
Yeah, okay.
Like almost not quite grape, but the
Zappo.
purple. Yeah, almost like a Zappo, I guess.
Yeah, the old purple Zappo.
I think that's what they were aiming for when they said purple, but very interesting. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that word.
I really would like you to give it a go.
Colour.
Make me sound better, maybe.
Anastasia.
Anastasia. Yeah.
Did you say 15 to 20 years for hop development?
Yeah, someday. Absolutely.
Wow.
Sounds like Revel's Core Rebrown version 3.
Yeah. So, to come back to limited releases, I mean, that's what I love about that, because when I read those tasting notes or I get a brief, then it's fun for me to sort of interpret that and then add my skill, which is that visual component, to what's going to be inside the beer. And so that's why I love doing the limited releases. And look, limited releases are limited releases. They're not, huge, batch runs and stuff like that. So, a lot of the time I've got to pretty much act on a brief and my first idea, because a lot of work can go into creating these limited release beers, and 95% of the time we nail it first go. But that
was a real read between the lines sentence that you just said there.
I didn't want it to sound like that. I'm always happy to go back on it, but
72% of stats are made up on the spot too.
But
you've really flexed your creative design with us though over the past 4 years, because you've gone from what was Malt Brewing Co.
Yeah.
A rebranded Revel Brewing Co. We got that artifact done, and that branding and that consistent little thin bezel stickers.
Yeah.
To now we're doing full illustration.
Yeah.
And like Verg, he's renowned for his topography and custom fonts. But then actually freehand drawing. I've really enjoyed watching that because to be honest, I never knew that was a thing that you did.
I know, because you were talking about like these limited releases of getting other artists to do stuff, and I just sort of be involved in sort of, I don't know,
creative direction,
or even onboarding some of these artists. But do I have to
phone?
Just
that's all right.
Just keep going.
Okay, so onboarding some of these artists, but the ego in me was just, no, Jay, I will do this. I can do this, and I can do this because I mean, look, being a specialist in corporate identity, I have to wear many hats and many different styles. And so whilst I am known for certain particular styles and stuff like that, I work on plenty of projects where I'm bouncing, but not all briefs, are going to warrant a certain particular style that I have. So I have to, and I actually get a kick out of that because it forces me to flex, use my visual skills to try and work out how to create that for that client. And that's what I love about these limited releases is that, to be honest, I was in a little bit of a funk earlier in the year. And it was these limited releases that got me out of that, because the only way to get like job satisfaction is to go all in for me. Do you know what I mean? Like to really try and create something that I feel proud of, not just, half bake something.
And you should feel proud because, that's a really authentic message. You like get in a design funk and you're like, how am I going to get out of this? And
work harder.
We could have gone elsewhere for that design component. And we was like, no, you got to back your pack, like Verg wants to do it. He's going to give it a crack. And you've literally knocked it out of the park with everyone.
No, cheers.
And
thanks.
there's some really exciting stuff coming up.
We've got some great ones coming up.
We could probably
some
give
crackers.
a sneak peek to a couple of those in the next little segment.
Yeah.
It is. Sorry, I was just going to say, from a creative point of view, sometimes with the beers as well, I've felt after you've done a big body of work, I guess, released a few different beers, you're like, oh, it's all done. And then you're almost in a bit of a hole.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, shit, now I've got to come up with more stuff.
Yeah.
So while it's a little bit different creating the beer to the design, I do sort of get that a little bit, the creative sort of funk that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then occasionally you get thrown a curveball and you get to design something like a light lager. Whereas as a brewer, that's
the people's beer. It really is. It's the town's favourite.
Really a way to express yourself as
really
a brewer.
Is.
So
it's almost like it's a Horcrux.
You might get thrown that one soon to design a can for the Rivermakers Light.
I think so.
The volume through the venues, anything to go by.
You've
people
got to
have
give the
spoken.
people.
They're asking to put it in the crowler, but
one other thing to consider as well is, there's the craft beer scene. There's such a big community, and we all love to take photos of our beers just to share what we're drinking and all of that. And we also buy with our eyes. A lot of the time. I mean, those that know good breweries, will know that they brew a good beer. But for those that don't, they're relying on what looks good. So that's really important. That's a really important takeaway as well. But I mean, I also want to create something that people hold and want to take a photo of.
Or want to drink.
Yeah, and want to drink.
I can honestly say this pale ale particularly is, it's starting to sweat now because it's been out for a while, but I hold that in my hand now and I get that feeling in my stomach that the thing that actually held it back for 18 months was that feeling of it's not ready. And I hold that now, and there is so much pride in that. And it doesn't matter that it took 18 months. The team got behind it, and we worked on it, and now people hold it, and then I know I do. I want to drink that.
Yeah.
I'm connected to that in a way that I wasn't. I mean, I was connected to this particularly from an emotional perspective of where we were in our business. Yeah, putting product into package for the first time. But this is, if we could have done this then, we probably would have. This is the. This is where it's
That's
at.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think so. And you made a good point there about, people wanting to share those photos and buying with your eyes and that. And from my point of view, then marketing the beers, when you went down this road of the Kettle Sour Series and the Neo and those 4 can wraps, it actually really injected life into our marketing because across this journey, I've felt like marketing beer or selling beer, it's usually you're selling something that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Like you'd love to be able to just, hey, taste this and have it. Maddie's amazing work, sell itself, but you do have to tell a story, and it's very hard when you are trying to get that out. You got
to build the hype.
Well, build the hype before it's come out. Yeah. So I know personally, since I've been able to get a hold of these, it's been able to make a massive difference in what we can do leading up to beers being released. So there's huge value in that.
Yeah,
and it's been
especially
fantastic.
when you start to create a series as well. We've got a couple coming out soon that they're going to look super sexy, and when you have one, and then you see the other series, you're going to want to get that as well. And
to that point as well, how did you come up with this Limited Kettle Sour Series? Because it just works so elegantly, I think, with the rest of our beers, and it's not how the brands and everything like that started out, but it's just so recognizable now. I think if anyone has one, they go, I miss that one's gone, and they just see that other one in the fridge. And
well, when you guys came to me and said, "Oh, we're going to do a series of sours," there had to be a consistent component for me. So each new flavor that, you could draw back and go, that's one of their sours. I didn't want to do a whole heap of completely unrecognizable from the previous designs. So sours being sours, and the sours often have, those fruity sort of, infusions into them, and that they can be sort of like those beers that, you have before maybe getting onto like, a heavier beer or something like that. They're a bit more fun for me anyway. I thought about just creating this series where you had lips. A lot of them at the start were drinks. They were based off drinks, like other drinks.
Pina colada and...
Exactly.
Yeah, yep.
I think that was the first one, the pina colada.
Yeah.
Looking back, and then the lemonade.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
And
there, so that really set the tone for that. And I think at that point in time, you told me the first few that were coming up. And so I just thought, okay, well, let's create a faceless, just some lips with a straw going in, and then build up the ingredients to where the straw is coming from, and that was pretty much what inspired me to do that. And then I knew that those lips would become recognizable. These big pink lips with a, pink and white straw going down, and then just trying to capture what fruits and, those drinks and do it in a digital sort of a way that made people look at the can and go, oh, that's what it's going to taste like. So that's...
I think there's a foundation too, probably prior to the Sour Series, which was the single hop IPAs. And it was when we had this, the traditional band, and Matty was brewing beers with a unique single hop to really showcase that flavor profile and what you can get from a hop.
Yeah.
And it was its own series, but we didn't have the space to really honor that in a way that was, could continue apart from a color.
Yeah.
Like the Zappa and Purple and a few others that we tried our best, but now you got all this real estate.
Yes.
You got lips drinking the fruit that's in the sour ale. And it really, it ties it all together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. And I love the Eclipse that you did just recently. Mm-hmm. It was incredible.
I still think that's it's an interesting thing. I don't see a lot of it, the single hop stuff. It's out and about, but it's one of our consistent things. And you can really pick that up and go, if you really study that beer and you take time to, think about it, you can get a flavor profile there that you might pick up when we add that into a beer that has 3 hops in it, for example.
Yeah.
Well, we've definitely spoken about that on the Beer with the Brewer podcast, about using those single hops and then combining them with the other. This beer in particular, those 3 hops are single hop IPAs we did.
Yep.
So you then get to see what the flavor profile is, and then you can use them into other beers.
Yep.
We're about to do the same thing with another hazy IPA we're brewing.
Yep.
And that's going to be 3 single hops again. So it's pretty cool to actually...
It's
almost like researching. You get to see the beer in its first sort of iteration on its own, and then combining it and seeing what they're like together as companion hops.
We call it Smash, a single malt and single hop.
Actually, I've made a few of those beers myself. Smash beers.
Yeah, no, it's great. You do a single hop and a single malt, and you really get to understand the dynamic of what that you get out of that malt bill and the hop profile. But yeah, carefully crafting those things and bringing our community on for the journey while we develop that. If you actually go back, as Matty said, you can see how we're crafting our recipes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah, no, I've got an art board that has every single label when we were doing the stickers on this one, art board. There's no point creating different files for each one. You just create one document with all the art boards. And there was so many. There were so many. And
I nearly fell over when we were doing some presentation work about our unique beers.
Yeah.
It was 31 last financial year.
Yeah.
A 12-month period, that's a lot of beers, and in a pandemic, it's like that's a lot of creative output. You don't really think about 31 beers. You divide that by 12 months and go, firstly, from a brewing perspective, that's insane. And then you got to design that and you got to get it out. It's got to be quality assured. It's got to be printed, packaged, and then sent out to the people all within a very small amount of time. So it's really cool to see the volume of creative output.
And you got to come up with a unique idea that
resonates.
Illustrating or creating something in a couple of days sometimes.
It's a lot of IPAs on the couch to come up with those beers.
That probably leads a little bit into, I guess,
that's where your best work's done.
Well, it is.
I guess it leads a little bit into the relationship with the designer and the brewer, especially because I'm sure Matty's got a ton of amazing ideas up in his head that he wants to get out to the people. But there's a connection between the concepts and the ideas that he has, and then you presenting it as something to take to the marketplace. So how does that relationship work back and forth, mainly between you two guys? There's
another big S word for that one, wasn't there? Was it synergy? Not synergy. The
symbiotic relationship.
Symbiotic relationship.
You came up with that word. I just copied and pasted it into the notes.
I think we had a couple of beers at the launch, at the soft launch of River Makers here. And we were just, I don't know, we're probably just having a little bit of a chat. We were like, I love your work, mate. Love your work.
Just two mats.
Just two mats giving each other a bit of a pat on the back.
I think we had a cuddle.
It was. So look, I don't know. We kind of talked about it a bit before. It's important for me to capture the passion that he puts in to what he's doing with the label. And, I think for the best part, we do that. Sometimes I might come up with something that's pretty sort of out there and you guys get behind it, like that synesthesia with Neo Mexicanus. Like we could have gone down a Mexican route for that.
That was left field.
Exactly.
But it worked.
But, I think it worked. And that was a banger of a beer, that one.
The other thing with a beer like that's actually a collab.
Yeah.
So there's another whole brewery that are involved that need to be, to a degree, part of the design process.
Yeah.
And certainly approve it. And then the Eclipse, that was a collab with HBA.
Yeah.
So they've got their own marketing department and how they want their product to look and be presented. So, while you're selling it to us, we then have to sell it to whoever we're collaborating with. So it adds even more sort of...
Have you had any pushback?
No, not really, to be honest.
No? Okay, no. Good.
We're just,
very well received.
We haven't spoken about it. We're about to release the birthday beers.
Yeah.
So that's 3 collabs there. And 3 very different designs. So
4 beers, but 3 collabs.
Yeah, for 4 years.
Yeah. So
there's some good ones there. I'm looking forward to showcasing those ones.
There's one design
one in particular
that I'd love for you guys to just chat about for a moment.
Should I come up for that one?
I saw the image on the can, and then I saw the inspiration. It's one of the best things. Matty's still
it's some of our best. It really is.
I still feel the pain.
We won't say too much, but it was. I had quite a humorous evening. Matty texted me. I won't say too much, but we had a bit of a laugh back and forth, and I think it was more at your expense. But I couldn't do much about it. Let's just leave everyone hanging for that one.
The people will see it when it's released in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a beauty.